Let's be clear, Vegas isn't dying, it's committing a slow, deliberate suicide. The wound is self-inflicted, carved by the razor edge of pure greed, while the Strip nickel and dimes its guests with outrageous resort fees and $50 parking shakedowns. And in this chaos, America's gamblers, the very people Vegas cast aside, discovered a forgotten concept: value. They found it in places like Florida, Texas, and Oklahoma. Make no mistake, these states aren't just competing with Vegas anymore, they are trouncing it. I'm about to expose how the most arrogant gambling empire in the world lost a war it was too blind and too conceited to even see was being waged. So let's peel back the curtain and see which casinos thrived and flourished while the Vegas behemoth was stumbling in its own self-made darkness. Florida, meanwhile, wasn't just finding its footing, it was sprinting. Miami's Magic City Casino raked in a staggering $10.9 million in November of 2024. And that's just from slot revenue. Pompano Park was hot on its heels with $10.1 million. Then you have Hialeah Park, Calder Casino, Casino Miami, each pulling in between $7 and $9 million. We're talking about 8 non-tribal casinos in Florida generating a jaw-dropping $56.5 million in one single month. That's a 3.4% surge over the previous year. While Vegas hemorrhaged cash and customers, Florida was booming. And here's the kicker: the Seminole Tribe's colossal Hard Rock properties aren't even factored into those figures. You dare to add those numbers in, and suddenly, Florida's gambling revenue transforms from a quaint regional market into a full-blown existential threat to Las Vegas. And get this, the Sunshine State slapped a 35% tax on all slot earnings. Yet even after the state took its massive cut, the casinos were still wildly profitable. Why? Because people showed up, they gambled, and most importantly, they kept coming back. Florida's gaming industry was on an unstoppable ascent all year long. In May of 2024, they hit a stunning $59.6 million. The summer months held that strength, and by the time autumn rolled in, Florida's casinos weren't just successful, they had unstoppable momentum. They had built a loyal customer base. They possessed the one thing Vegas once cherished, but arrogantly discarded: accessibility. You really want to understand the monumental difference between Vegas and Florida? It boils down to drive time. A resident in Florida can be at a casino in an hour, maybe 2. There's no extortionate plane ticket, no soul-crushing hotel bill riddled with hidden fees, no need for a 3-day commitment just to justify the insane expense. You just get in your car and go. Play some slots, grab a decent dinner, and drive home. That's not a once-in-a-lifetime vacation, that's a Tuesday night. And let's not forget, Vegas used to own Tuesday nights. The local casinos absolutely thrived on that regular business. But the soulless corporate giants on the Strip, they stopped caring about Tuesday nights decades ago. They became obsessed with the whales, the high rollers, the baccarat players dropping 6 figures in a single decadent evening. Well, they got their whales, and in their blind pursuit, they lost absolutely everyone else. This catastrophic void created powerhouses in Texas and Oklahoma, where tribal casinos in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas generated a mind-shattering $7.2 billion in 2024. Let me repeat that, $7.2 billion. Let that number sink into your skull. That is nearly the same amount as the entire Las Vegas Strip combined. A single region, dominated by tribal properties, is now pulling in Vegas-level money without all the glitzy, overpriced, and unnecessary infrastructure. Oklahoma alone operates a staggering 137 tribal gaming facilities. The state's tribal gaming exclusivity fees skyrocketed to $210 million in 2024. And where did that money go? It funded education, mental health services, and critical infrastructure. Oklahoma took its gambling revenue and built communities. Vegas, on the other hand, took its gambling revenue and built nothing but shareholder value. Meanwhile, the Chickasaw Nation, the Cherokee Nation, and the Choctaw Nation weren't just operating casinos. They were building sovereign empires. Take the Winstar World Casino in Thackerville, Oklahoma, strategically positioned right on the Texas border. It is, by gaming floor space, the largest casino on planet Earth. Yes, bigger than anything in Vegas. And it is absolutely packed every single weekend, every holiday, and during every major event. Hordes of Texans drive up from Dallas and Houston. They gamble, they eat, they go home. And then they repeat the cycle. This is a state that doesn't even allow commercial casinos, never has. But you place a world-class tribal casino right on the Oklahoma border, and you've just unlocked a captive audience of 30 million potential customers, all within driving distance. This is a battle Vegas cannot win. It cannot compete with simple geography. A Texan can experience the world's largest casino for nothing more than the cost of a tank of gas. Just stepping foot in Vegas will bleed you $1,000 before a single die is thrown. Meanwhile, the Oklahoma City region watched its gaming revenue explode by a staggering 12.7% in 2024. Let that sink in. 12.7%. While Vegas was flatlining, Oklahoma was a powder keg going off. And it wasn't just them. The Tulsa region, the Portland region swallowing up Washington and Oregon, the Phoenix region with its Arizona and New Mexico strongholds, every single one of them reported massive growth. Every tribal region, every single market was surging in one undeniable direction, up. And what did the Vegas kingpins do? They likely glanced at these alarming figures and just shrugged them off. Regional casinos? That's not real competition, they sneered. Their fatal assumption? Nobody in their right mind chooses Tulsa over Las Vegas. Who would ever pick a tribal casino in Oklahoma when they could be on the glittering strip? Except, in a shocking twist of fate, millions of people did precisely that. And they kept doing it over and over because Vegas had become a colossal ripoff. It all boils down to the resort fee scam. The moment Vegas truly, utterly lost its mind. Resort fees. Let's be clear. This is the single most despised, predatory charge in the entire American hospitality industry. It was birthed by station casinos back in 2004 as a shady way to sidestep online travel agency commissions. A devious accounting trick, nothing more. But the stench of easy money spread, and other casinos took notice. Before long, by 2013, even the mighty Caesars Entertainment, which had built its brand proudly proclaiming it was a no resort fee haven, buckled under the pressure of greed and joined the racket. Today, these mandatory resort fees on the Strip will gouge you for anywhere from $35 to an outrageous $75 per night, plus tax, piled on top of your room rate for amenities that were always included. We're talking internet access, the fitness center, the pool, even local phone calls. Basic services that every other hotel in America provides for free were cynically repackaged and sold back to you as premium services. Suddenly, your $100 room was a $165 room. And the worst part? Guests were ambushed with this reality only when they arrived at the check-in desk. The advertised rate became a complete fiction. The final bill was the only truth, and it made people furious. Not just annoyed, they were seething with rage. The kind of white-hot anger that guarantees you'll never come back. And on top of it all, base room rates themselves soared by a breathtaking 46% between 2019 and 2024, jumping from $133 to $193. But wait, there's more. Slap on that predatory resort fee, then pile on the parking fee, something that was once a given, now costing you $25 to $40 every single day. Then, dare to show up before 3 in the afternoon? That'll be a $60 early check-in penalty. And God forbid you get thirsty, that bottle of water will set you back a cool $26. Don't forget the $48 pizza and the $15 draft beer. Every single point of contact became a transaction. Every interaction was designed to bleed you dry with another surcharge. In that moment, Vegas ceased to be fun and simply became expensive. And believe me, there is a world of difference. You want to know what Florida casinos charge for resort fees? The vast majority charge nothing. Parking? It's free. That's right, an early check-in penalty? They've never even heard of such a thing. Meanwhile, Oklahoma casinos are giving away free parking, free drinks while you play, and buffets that don't cost you a $50 bill. No, they aren't 5-star luxury resorts. They don't pretend to be. But what they are is honest about the price. A lesson Vegas tragically forgot. The vast majority of your customers are not millionaires. Most people walking onto a casino floor are working class, middle class people just looking for a little entertainment, a small escape, and a chance to maybe, just maybe, hit a jackpot. These people have a budget, they have a hard limit, so when Vegas effectively doubled the price of admission overnight, they didn't magically discover more money in their bank accounts, they simply found other places to spend it. This all comes down to the catastrophic 80-20 rule, as explained by Anthony Lucas, a professor of casino management at UNLV and, critically, a former Las Vegas casino executive. He laid it out perfectly. 80% of a casino's revenue flows from just 20% of its players. We're talking about the high rollers, the VIPs, the legendary whales. People who can drop 10 grand in a weekend and not even blink, because for them, it's just pocket change. And Vegas, in its infinite wisdom, doubled down on chasing these players, literally and figuratively. They jacked up the table minimums, created exclusive high-limit rooms, held invitation-only tournaments, and rolled out baccarat tables that don't even bother listing a minimum bet, because if you have to ask, you absolutely cannot afford it. The Strip shamelessly transformed itself into an exclusive playground for the wealthy, leaving everyone else locked outside the velvet rope. And for a moment, that disastrous strategy almost seemed to work. Gaming revenue held steady, a dangerous illusion fueled by fewer visitors with fatter wallets. The whales kept spending, but here lies the catastrophic flaw in their thinking. You cannot build a city on a pathetic 20% of your customer base. It's sheer madness to believe you can fill 47,000 hotel rooms with only the highest rollers. You cannot keep 100,000 people employed when your visitor count plummets by 8% year after agonizing year. The Strip looks like a ghost town because it is a ghost town. The warnings are coming from the inside. Hotel workers are reporting eerily silent hallways during what should be the busiest hours. Casino floors that once roared with life now just echo with emptiness. Restaurants are forced to close their doors early, starved for customers. The energy, the very electricity, the soul that made Vegas Vegas is fading into darkness, and you can't buy that back with a billionaire's blood money. But look beyond the Strip's crumbling empire, and you'll find that downtown Las Vegas and the locals casinos are immune to this plague. They never foolishly chased the whales. They remained loyal to the locals, the regular, the Tuesday night crowd, and in 2024, their loyalty was rewarded. Downtown Vegas shattered records for the fourth consecutive year, with revenue climbing 2.4%. The Boulder Strip grew, Reno grew. It's an unbelievable indictment. Everywhere else found a path to growth, while the legendary Strip chose to wither and die. This isn't just a Nevada problem. Regional casinos are thriving. They can't chase whales because the real whales are jetting off to Macau or Monaco. Regional casinos understand a simple, profound truth. Serve your community. Price your offerings for your neighbors. Survive on the strength of volume, not on the greed of margins. And here is the brutal lesson of our time. Volume is crushing margins. Atlantic City witnessed the very same disaster, a cautionary tale documented by Jane Balkinowitz, director of Stockton University's Lloyd D. Levinson Institute of Gaming, Hospitality, and Tourism, who watched the same tragic story unfold in Atlantic City. The numbers told a terrifying story. Gaming revenue skyrocketed, while the number of actual visitors plummeted. Fewer people, more money squeezed from them. It's the exact same disastrous Vegas playbook. But Atlantic City's saving grace is its foundation of regional drive-in customers, the loyal crowds from New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and Delaware. They aren't perilously dependent on fickle international tourists or the chaos of cross-country flights. So when global travel ground to a halt, Atlantic City barely flinched. When gas prices exploded, their customers still made the 3-hour drive instead of abandoning a costly flight across the country. Regional markets possess a geographic armor, an inherent advantage that glamorous destination markets can never hope to match. And now, far too late, Vegas is being forced to learn that hard lesson. Proximity matters more than a world-famous brand. New Jersey's gaming revenue exploded by a stunning 8.8% year over year through August 2025. Nevada's growth? A pathetic, anemic 1.45%. The largest casino market in the country was just lapped by the second largest. This should be fundamentally impossible, but it happened. And it happened for one simple, damning reason. Nevada, and specifically Las Vegas, priced itself into utter irrelevance for the vast majority of Americans. The American Gaming Association's own report is the nail in the coffin. An incredible 28 of 38 jurisdictions with commercial gaming set all-time revenue records in 2024. 28 out of 38. The entire industry is booming, but the party is over in Vegas. Nationwide, commercial gaming revenue hit a staggering $71.9 billion. Tribal gaming then added another $43.9 billion to the pot. We are talking about over $100 billion in gambling revenue. And amid this gold rush, Vegas's share actually shrank. Its iron grip on the market has eroded into dust. Markets they once mocked are now eating their lunch. This was the competition nobody in power took seriously. For decades, Vegas held an absolute monopoly on the American gambling imagination. If you wanted the real, authentic casino experience, you went to Vegas. Everything else was a pathetic imitation. State lotteries, rickety riverboat casinos, Indian gaming, they were all dismissed as cheap substitutes for people who couldn't make the pilgrimage. That entire arrogant hierarchy has now utterly collapsed. Make no mistake, modern tribal casinos are now behemoths that put the Vegas Strip to shame. We're talking about giants like Winstar, Mohegan Sun, Foxwoods, and the Hard Rock in Florida. This isn't some backroom minor league game anymore. These are world-class destinations with restaurants that blow away half the overpriced mediocre eateries on the Strip. They offer superior entertainment, service that actually values the customer, and here's the kicker, they don't bleed you dry. California's tribal casinos alone raked in a staggering 12.1. Remember those days when Interstate 15 was a river of steel, overflowing with weekend warriors, all pointed toward the false promise of Nevada? Well, those cars have vanished. Why? Because California now boasts 87 of its own tribal casinos. Why on earth would anyone endure a 6-hour trek to Vegas when they can be at Pachanga or San Manuel in just one? Or Morongo? The answer is they wouldn't. And this isn't just a West Coast problem. The eastern and southeastern tribal regions, we're talking Florida, Connecticut, New York, North Carolina, they snatched $10.2 billion. The Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas region, another $7.2 billion. The numbers are simply devastating. You add all that up and you're looking at tribal gaming revenues that would make the titans at Caesars Entertainment weep. Las Vegas used to be the trendsetter, the innovator. Now it's a dinosaur, watching from the sidelines as other markets innovate, all while clinging to a rotten business model from 2004. Charge more, deliver less, and pray the tarnished brand name is enough. Spoiler alert, it's not. Not by a long shot. But don't just take my word for it. Listen to what the so-called experts are admitting. Carlos Santarelli, an analyst at Deutsche Bank, called 2024 a year to forget for regional casino operators. But here's the terrifying truth they're glossing over. These regional operators had a bad year, and yet they still managed to grow overall. Vegas had a bad year and it actually shrank. This isn't just a slump, people. There's a chasm of difference between a down year and a deep structural rot. Santarelli pointed out the obvious. States that introduced new casinos and fresh competition saw growth. States that stagnated, they contracted. It's not rocket science. Let me translate that for the executives in their ivory towers. People are screaming for new options. They crave variety. They are sick to death of the same tired, recycled strip properties that have been collecting dust since the 90s. Then you have Jordan Bender, a gaming analyst at JMP Securities, who sounded the alarm bells, warning everyone who would listen that Las Vegas Strip gaming revenue was on track to plummet 3% in the first quarter of 2025. And guess what? He was dead right. February, down. March, down. April, down. May, a catastrophic 3.9% drop. June, down. July, still down. The bleeding just wouldn't stop. And yet you have Chad Bainan, a senior analyst at Macquarie Capital, desperately trying to put a positive spin on the catastrophe. He claimed the mid to high-end customers still felt pretty good about Vegas, that the core clientele wasn't abandoning ship. But then, in the same breath, he was forced to admit that some people were lightly softening their spending. That's analyst speak for the ship is taking on water, but we can't scream that the market's in deep trouble. Meanwhile, you've got Michael Lawton, a senior economic analyst for the Nevada Gaming Control Board, trotting out the line that consumer demand for leisure travel remains strong. And sure, on the surface, that's true. People are absolutely traveling. They're just not traveling to Las Vegas. They're flocking to Florida, to Texas, to Oklahoma, literally anywhere that doesn't have the audacity to charge $75 for the privilege of using the hotel gym. This is a full-blown visitation crisis. Let's peel back the layers on who has abandoned Vegas. First on the list, Canadians. After the outrageous comments about making Canada the 51st state, combined with bitter tariff disputes, a massive rift was torn open. Former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau didn't just hint, he flat out told Canadians to take their tourism dollars somewhere else. And you know what? They listened. Air passenger traffic from Canada to Las Vegas was projected to crater by a disastrous 18.5% as Canadian visitor numbers evaporated in the toxic political climate. And the damage doesn't stop there. Mexican tourists, another absolutely critical demographic for high roller action, they've also pulled back dramatically. Hotel executives are quietly admitting that their most valuable high roller clients from Mexico have simply lost their appetite for visiting. A toxic cocktail of political rhetoric, hostile immigration policies, and crushing economic uncertainty all conspired to drive them away. This is how an empire begins to crumble. The international lifeblood Vegas depended on bled out, finding other veins. But the real catastrophic hemorrhage is domestic. Middle-class American tourists, the absolute bedrock of Vegas for 70 years, have vanished. Not because they lost the urge to gamble, but because they've been priced out of existence. A weekend getaway that once cost $1,000 now extorts $2,000 for the exact same tired experience. The same rooms, the same shows, the same so-called buffets that are a pale imitation of their former glory. Just $2,000 instead of $1,000. But those middle-class customers didn't stop gambling. Oh no. They took their money and fled to Florida. They drove to Oklahoma. They poured into Foxwoods, Mohegan Sun, and the dozens of new gambling halls that sprung up across Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, and New York. They found havens that actually wanted their money, instead of a city that merely tolerated their presence while shamelessly hunting bigger prey. Vegas operated on a delusional assumption of loyalty, a blind faith in brand power, an arrogant belief that people would always choose them no matter the cost. They were catastrophically wrong. Loyalty dies when it isn't returned. Brand power becomes a joke when the experience is a slap in the face to the price. And people will, without question, abandon you for anyone, anywhere that treats them with a shred of dignity. So where does this death spiral lead? Vegas faces a grim choice. Continue its pathetic obsession with the top 20% and watch its visitor count utterly collapse. Or it can remember the fundamental truth it abandoned. Great cities are built upon millions of small, loyal patrons, not a few thousand pampered whales. The Strip has the capacity for the masses, but it's priced with a boutique luxury delusion. That isn't just a bad business model, it's a ticking time bomb. Resorts World Las Vegas, at least, saw the writing on the wall. They've mercifully eliminated resort fees through September 11th, 2025. They've stopped the insanity of charging for parking. They are the lone holdout on the Strip without these predatory hidden fees. It's too early to know if it's enough, but at least they're trying something other than pure contempt for their customers. Every other giant, MGM, Caesars, Wynn, they stubbornly hold the line. Keep the fees, jack up the prices, and keep squeezing their dying customer base. All while they bleed market share to competitors they're too arrogant to even take seriously. Florida's ascent will not be stopped. Texas will, inevitably, unleash commercial casinos. And when that day comes, Vegas will witness another mass exodus of its customers. Oklahoma's empire will continue to expand. Tribal gaming will continue to shatter records. The rest of America is forging its own casino economy. And Vegas? Vegas is just another option now. Not the only option. And for most people, it's not even the best one. Just another overpriced destination. Downtown Vegas and the locals market, they'll probably weather this storm. They serve a different crowd. They price with sanity. They understand their place in the ecosystem. But the Strip is in mortal peril because it forgot it's not competing with other global luxury playgrounds. It's competing with every local casino in America that offers the exact same thrill for half the price. The tragic irony of it all, this is what makes the story so perfectly, painfully Vegas. The casinos were consumed by insatiable greed, and they lost. The house finally, spectacularly lost. Not to skilled players or clever cheats. They lost to the cold, hard reality of basic economics. They priced out their own customers, and those customers found somewhere else to go. It is as simple and as brutal as that. Vegas spent decades convincing America that gambling was entertainment, a harmless diversion. They succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. America embraced the casino floor. Every state wanted its own piece of the action, and now that they all have it, Vegas has lost the very monopoly it created. It taught America to love gambling, and now it's being devoured by its own creation. But America, ever resourceful, found cheaper playgrounds. It's a bitter irony that the mob understood a fundamental truth the corporate suits completely ignored. You need the masses. You need the hopefuls playing the penny slots, the wide-eyed tourists, the everyday folks who meticulously save all year for that one single escape. Because those are the people who fill the empty hotel rooms, who pack the restaurants to the rafters. They are the lifeblood, the energy, the ones who become your best advertisement. They aren't the high-rolling whales, no. They are the entire damn ocean those whales depend on to survive. But corporate Vegas, in its infinite wisdom, stared at a cold, dead spreadsheet and saw that 80% of the cash came from just 20% of the players. So they optimized for greed. They built an entire business model on that soulless calculation. And in doing so, they systematically murdered the very soul of what made Vegas special. They destroyed the accessibility, that intoxicating feeling that anyone could be a king for a day. That beautiful, democratic illusion that you didn't have to be rich to feel rich for a weekend is dead and buried. Make no mistake, Vegas is now a playground exclusively for the wealthy. And of course, for those desperately pretending to be rich until their credit cards scream for mercy. Everyone else? They got smart. They found cheaper, more welcoming places to roll the dice. Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Connecticut, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, California. Just take your pick. An entire nation of alternatives has risen up in defiance. And every single one of them is more than happy to take your money without the absolute insult of charging you $75 just to use the Wi-Fi. In the end, Las Vegas placed a colossal bet on pure, unadulterated greed. And it lost. The Strip, that glittering monument to excess, raked in $8.8 billion in 2024. A number that sounds impressive until you realize it's down from $8.9 billion the year before. That 1% drop isn't just a rounding error, it's an earthquake. It represents a fundamental shift. It's the canary in the coal mine. The moment the world saw that the Vegas strategy of squeezing every last dime from its customers had finally spectacularly backfired. Meanwhile, Florida's casinos grew, and Oklahoma's shattered records. Tribal gaming exploded, hitting an incredible $43.9 billion. Regional markets didn't just survive, they thrived. The entire industry boomed, everywhere but Vegas. Those insidious resort fees, the outrageous parking charges, the criminally inflated room rates, the $60 shakedown for an early check-in, it all adds up. And eventually, people do the simple math and come to a cold, hard conclusion. Vegas just isn't worth it anymore. Not when they can go somewhere that doesn't treat them like a walking, talking ATM machine. This wasn't a sudden collapse. Vegas didn't fail overnight. No, it was a slow, agonizing death by 1,000 cuts, draining its very soul one predatory fee at a time, one cynical upcharge at a time, one middle-class family at a time, deciding to take their hard-earned vacation money somewhere that actually seemed to want them there. And so the competition that the Vegas Titans arrogantly dismissed became the rival they can no longer afford to ignore. Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Connecticut, California, the tribal casinos, they aren't stealing the Vegas audience. Vegas gift wrapped them. They tied them up in a bow made of resort fees and parking charges and personally delivered them to competitors who had the basic decency to welcome their business. This is the textbook definition of what happens when you sacrifice long-term loyalty at the altar of short-term profit. This is the inevitable outcome when you become so obsessed with hunting whales that you poison the very ocean they swim in. And this is the catastrophic result of assuming your brand is so invincible that it can withstand any amount of contempt for your customers. Vegas made a bet on its own arrogance, and it is losing. But you want to know the most infuriating part of this whole tragedy? Vegas could fix this tomorrow. They could kill the resort fees, slash the hidden charges, and price their rooms with a shred of honesty. They could start treating their middle-class customers like they actually matter again. They could bring back the energy, the accessibility, hell, they could bring back the fun. But they won't. Because that would mean admitting they were wrong, and the new Vegas, in its corporate hubris, never admits fault. Not until the last chip is cashed and the tables are barren. And so, the great exodus continues. The numbers continue their downward spiral. Florida's empire continues to grow. Texas is gearing up for full-scale casino warfare. Oklahoma is expanding its dominion. And through it all, Vegas sits on its gilded throne, genuinely baffled as to why the crowds have vanished. Oh, the crowds are still coming. They're just not coming here. Not when here costs twice as much for half the magic. Vegas forged its empire on the sacred promise that everyone deserved a shot at glory. Then, in its staggering arrogance, it betrayed that promise. And now, it is paying the ultimate price. A price paid with every vacant hotel room, every humiliatingly declined credit card, and every family that now chooses the shores of Pompano Beach over the hollow spectacle of the Strip. They peddled the lie that the house always wins. But what happens when the house itself begins to crumble? Right now, Vegas is being devoured by Florida, by Texas, and by every other market that remembered the fundamental truths Vegas so callously forgot. That gambling is entertainment, not exploitation. That customers are human beings, not profit margins. That value is non-negotiable. That loyalty is earned through respect, not simply assumed. Vegas is in a catastrophic freefall, and they have only themselves to blame.